In this video, we are going to talk about the 2024 movie Moana 2. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. We will also review the movie and share the reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. The film starts on an island where Moana and her pets Poa the pig and Hehe the rooster are running through the forest to find artifacts of the ancestors. She is hoping to find other tribes connected to the ocean, but the most she finds is an old spot with a carving of the ancestors. Moana sails back to Montai. We are back, where she is greeted by her parents Tui and Sina, and her little sister Simia, who idolizes her big sister. The other people on the island also tell tales of Moana as a legendary wayfinder who joined forces with Mui to save their island. Somewhere else in the ocean, Mui finds a cave where he encounters a witch named Metangi. She works for the god Nelo, who has a bitter grudge against Mui and all humans. Mui wants to find the lost island of Motufetu, which was sent underwater by Nalo, but when Mustangi suggests that he will need Moana's help, Mui says that he is keeping her out of this for her safety. Mustangi then traps Mui in the cave. At night, the tribe holds a ceremony that Moana participates in. A flash of lightning comes down from the sky and shows Moana a vision of her ancestors, Tathaivasa. He and his crew were set to find Motufetu until they were brought down by a powerful storm placed by Nelo. Tathaivasa talked to Moana, showing her home and village completely dark and empty, as this is the future that lies ahead if she does not reconnect the tribes of the ocean. When she wakes up, she realizes that it is Motufetu that she is looking for. Her parents fear that the mission is preludes, and Simia carries that her sister might not come back, but Mona knows she has to do this. She ever sees a vision of her grandmother Tala to encourage her to do the job. Mona rounds up Poa and Hehe along with three new crew members. Moni, who makes the tap streets on the island and is a huge fanboy of Mui. Luto, a fast talking young woman who knows a thing or two about building canoes, among other things, and Kale, a funky farmer who provides other supplies and sustenance for the crew. Simia tries to sneak on board, but Moana promises to her that she will return. Moana also shows her how alive the ocean is and how it responds to them. On their voyage, the crew follows a shooting star to lead them towards Motufetu. However, the star seems to break apart before the crew sees that looks like an island. It then turns out to be the Kakamora warriors. Moana tries to get the crew away from the vicious little coconuts, but the Kakamora end up tranquilizing them and bringing them on board on their ship. Both crew also end up coming close to a gigantic, monstrous clam creature. The Kakamora have Muni translate their own drawing to reveal that they are not bad, but they have been separated from their own island after Mitufitu disappear, which served their connection to their home. The Kakamora agrees to join forces with Moana's crew if they help neutralize the giant calm. One little Kakamora joins them as they try to use a toxin from the giant blowfish creature, but they lose each of their spear striped with the toxic and end up falling down into a cave. Moni, Luto, and Gale meet Mui, who finally frees himself and gets his cook. However, he spots Hehe and quickly realizes that Moana is there and must be in danger. Moana ends up meeting Mustangi and learns that she is Nalu's prisoner and is bound to the cave. Mustangi helps Moana find another way to escape. and helps her come across a portal for her and Mui to reunite with the other three members. Mustangi is unable to leave but is confident Moana will defeat Nalo, but is also worried he will destroy her and her pit bat. The crew starts getting closer to Motufetu, but they get to a point where the ocean cannot help Moana because of Nalo's curse. A group of sea serpents attack the crew, with Mooney nearly getting eaten, but she is saved by Mui, albeit traumatized, and the canoe ends up wrecked and washed ashore on another island. Moana is brought down and Mui lifts her spirits up. Can I get a Chihu to get her back on her feet and to fix up the canoe to set sail again? The crew enters the eye of Nalo storm, which is what has kept humans from fighting Motufetu. Mui tries to create a diversion to get Nalo to attack him, while the crew tries to get closer to the island, where he tries to pull Motufetu up with his hook. A blast of lightning hits him, stripping him of his godhood. Moni, Lutu, and Kale put him back onto the canoe while Moana swims underwater to touch the island, which would break the curse. Another lightning strike follows her and it strikes her after she manages to touch Motefito. The storm dissipates, but Moana does not resurface. Mui swims underwater to find that the hit killed her. He begins to weep and sing a terrible song for her, and the spirits of Moana's ancestors, including Tautaivasa and Great Matala, arrives to revive her. A wayfinder Tato appears on Moana's arm while Mui's godhood is restored. Moise uses his hook to pull Motufetu out of the ocean, and after Moana blows into a conch shell, other tribes start to make their way towards the island. The Kakamora also reunite and fight their own island again. Moana and her crew return home where Mui meets Simia and she grabs his ear like Moana first did before the two sisters reunite. Moana also shows her tribe that she brought the other tribe to meet them. With the other islands connected once again, Moana and her crew set sail on another adventure. During the credit scene, Nalo appears in his human form to confront Mustangi over her helping Moana. He still intends to keep her prison and accept his revenge against the humans. They are joined by Tamotoa, who also want to join in getting revenge against Moana, but Nalo hits him with lightning instead. Moana to review Disney's most interpreted heroine is as sparky as ever. Disney's anti-princess ancient Polynesia live war teenage adventure Moana returns in this lush, handsomely animated sequel. Originally intended as a series for Disney Plus, the story sets relatively comfortably within the feature film format, give or take a bit of missing background information, a mythic romp that unfolds at sea and inside the bioluminescent guts of an immense monster calm. This installment is set 3 years after the events of the 2016 original. Moana, a fully paid off wayfinder gifted with the ability to interact with the waves, has been searching for other island communities with limited success. But through a vision, she receives an urgent message from the elders. Moana recreates a crew for her canoe catamaran. Regular sidekicks, the anxious pig and dimwit chicken, are joined by an eager fanboy, an ex-happy inventor girl, and a surplus farmer, and sets out once more to be reunited with the demigod Mui, played by Davin Jensen Weiss, who, for reason not fully explained, has been imprisoned in a bat cave which appears to be located in the clam's capacious digestive system. The songs are decent, the slightly sluttered storyline moves at a brisk enough clip, which of the charm of the film in the vividly realized, self-contained world apart for a brief TikTok-style dance routine and a mention of fanfic. There's a very little to jar us out of Moana's ROM. But the main selling point remains Moana herself, the sparkiest and most interpreted Disney heroine of them all. Moana is what's a girl gotta go to get some conflict in Moana too. Moana has always has it pretty good as far as Disney princes go. No one's trying to marry her off against her will or keep her confined to a castle. She instead has spent her life preparing to inherit a leadership role on her island home of Motunai, where everyone seems to love her as much as her parents do. And when she is torn between taking charge of her people and pursuing her calling of becoming a wayfinder and restoring their lost tradition of ocean voyaging, well, it turns out she can just do both. Even the villain she faces in the 2016 film The Lava Monster Taka is not a few to be vanquished but a wounded goddess needed to be seen for what she truly is and healed. Moana was not exactly long on conflict, but that final in which Moana gives the living island of Tifiti back her heart was lovely enough that it didn't really matter, and the songs which Lin Manuel Miranda wrote with Operetta Fo and Mark Mancina were good, sometimes even great. Mono 2, on the other hand, has a soundtrack composed by the unofficial Bracton musical team of Abigail Barlow and Emily Beer, and it's so devoid of bangers or any remotely memorable tones that there's nothing to distract you from the movie's league of clear stakes or meaningful drama or antagonist with any personality. Seriously, what's a girl got to do to get some good old fashioned conflict around here? This is something of a decent Disney animation issue. After a long, fraught history of villains that were more exciting, more colorful, and invariably more quiet than the heroes, the entertainment giant has in recent years backed away from having clear cut bad guys at all, opting instead for its character to face down systemic problem, their own insecurities are adversaries who are really just misunderstood. There's nothing inherently wrong with the squishier approach to creating tension, but in the case of Moana 2, which was directed by David Derrick, J.R. Jason Hand, and Dana Ledox Miller, the result is just boring. Whenever Mona, voiced once again by Auliʻi Cravalho, encounters an obstacle, whoever's in her way turns out to be an ally in waiting, placated with an inspirational song or both. The film is a series of stops in which this pattern repeats until we get to the end. When there's an actual baddie, a storm god named Nalo, who is hidden away the key navigational island of Motufetu to keep the various Pacific island communities apart for reasons all his own. It'd be great to hear them, but until a mid-credit scene, Nalo is literally just a bunch of baleful clouds and purple lightning. Moana 2 started off as a Disney Plus series until the powers that be realized that trading enormous box office return for theatrical streaming growth was ridiculous and reworked the project into a theatrical release. You can still spot traces of those beginning in its structure, which is part of why it feels so awkward. It would probably make more sense for the sadly Batwoman Mustangi to go from keeping demigod Mui prisoner to helping Moana out of it happened over the course of an episode. Instead, it happens over a song, leaving the character's whole deal deeply confusing. A lot of things are confusing and maybe would be less so if they were developing that once had longer ramp ups. It is, for instance, never really clear why, after a song establishing that the island of Montanoi is thriving and growing, that it when becomes very pressing for Moana to reconnect the community to others out there. Less it face extension, but off she goes with animal sidekick Hehe the rooster, and Poa the pig, as well as a new human crew that includes shipbuilding Lato, Farmer Kale, and Falkrest and Mui fanboy Moni. Moana 2 looks pretty, at least with the azure-blue waterscape of the anthropomorphized ocean stretching out to the horizon, but it doesn't feel like a true sequel so much as it feels like a softer version of one of the direct-to-video affairs that Disney used to pump out for all of its big release. Cravalho may be back and The Rock may be back, and while the David Bowie Esco coconut crab is not back. There is a giant non-singing calm with lots of eyes and tentacles that the characters have to navigate their way through. But the whole enterprise has also run fee to it. It's just gang through the motions, running through the same beats with slightly different. And in the case of the Rich Rock song that involved a choro of common Moana decidedly weaker material, it will not matter. Moana 2 is shaping up to be a sizable hit because Wonder of Wonders has turned out that people like taking their kids to the movie. A real movie would give its protagonist something to continue to wrestle with as she learns and grows. But Moana 2 is not a real movie, it's an extension of time tested IP, a snappy play from a media giant that may struggle mightily when it comes to new original material but has always known how to continue capitalizing on its hits. Moana 2 is the South Pacific Wayfinder. Moana set sail with a new crew assisted by demigod Moi to find other communities to the ocean. The venerated Walt Disney Animation Studio has had an odd relationship with sequels. For a long time, follow-ups to its animated classics were largely outsourced as a DTV cheapest who remembers Lady and the Tramp 2 snaps. On the other hand, its most successful film ever in the billion-dollar grossing Frozen 2. Moana 2 has had a similarly confusing journey to the screen. It began life as a TV series before eventually changing course and making the leap to the big screen. And thank goodness it did because this quality of animation deserves every inch of the cinema screen. A retreat that plays it relatively safe, Monato hardly reinvents any wheels or wheels, but it's still delightful, charming, and gorgeous to look at. The new directing crew of David Derek Jr., Jason Hand, and Donna Lennox Miller staying true to the integrity of the 2016 original story. More seafaring adventure with the titular Polynesian teenager and her shape-shifting, tattooed demigod Pale Mui. Set years after the events of the first film, we are caught up as you might accept with a toy-tapping expository songs. The village we learn is now lush and thriving after Mona rescued it from doom, and she is now a minor celebrity, a wayfinder whose signature hair whip is mimicked by superfans, among them her outrageously adorable puppet-eyed little sister Simia. But the ancestors are still calling. Her isolated community needs to find other people beyond the horizon, so she sets sails again. Mona is still a hugely engaging hero, especially for young girls, a peppy and endearing theater kids echoes goofball. And Carvalho still has an impressive set of pipes, especially in new signature song Beyond. Dan Jensen Moy leaves slightly less of an impression this song. Can I get a Chihu is not quite the pleasingly cocksure earworm of your welcome. The first film's chief songwriters, Lin-Manuel Miranda, did not return for the second film. But Mui and his magical fish hook are still the franchise secret weapon. As soon as the people's eyebrow pops up on a shape-shifted shark, you are having fun. It remains outside of a Fast and Furious film Johnson's best role. Moana has plenty of help this time, in fact, along with old pals including a furry pig, a scene strangling stupid Google eyed chicken, and a high-fiving, anthropomorphic, Abby-style ocean spirit. She is also joined by a new crew. You sense that these characters might have had more to do in TV form, but they are still very fun. As a whimsical boats engineer Lotto, comedian Ross Metaphor in particular gets a passy Miranda eco solo, while Teka Veti, a regular David fan, has a nice turn as a groupie farmer who cannot swim and hates songs. Even the coconut heated Kakamora enjoy an emotional character arc of their own. The songs about working together, living up to your responsibility, and Disney in motion are typically of modern Disney films, as is the sense of wacky peril. Yet, despite the constant danger, there is no straightforward antagonist here, other than a cursed storm. In fact, the real villain here is bad weather, which is fine actually. It leaves more room to luxuriate in the stunningly rendered oceanic fantasy mythology. This is animated fun of a very high standard. Muy luscious logs have never looked silkier or better condition, and storytelling that leads on formula without being reliant on it. And as with the first film, there's a sense that Disney is not looking to repeat mistakes of the past, celebrating the Polynesian culture with its ritual, dancing, singing, and stories rooted in authenticity. Also, there's a very funny boogle-eyed chicken, a touchless fish than the original, but this is still bursting with energy, emotion, warmth, and imagination. It knows the ways. Moana 2 is not very good, but that hardly matters to Disney. Moana 2 was never supposed to exist. The follow up to be beloved 2016 Oscar nominated animated film was meant to be a long form miniseries exclusive to Disney Plus. That seems like a great idea, a strong format that would allow the intrepid, eponymous vendor to explore and find lots of new adventures. Then in February of this year, Bob Iger announced that the series had been reworked into a theatrical sequel. They were apparently so impressed with the early footage they saw that they just had to closely rework it into a movie that could be released in theaters. Aside from what this says about the sheer lack of faith Disney seems to have its own streaming platform, it's tough to ignore how radical a shift was required for the team making the Moana series to rigid it into a movie in the space of less than a year. Their efforts were valiant, but Moana 2 is a pale imitation of its lovely predecessors. Then again, I'm not sure it could have been anything else. Set 3 years after the first film, Moana is now exploring the islands around her home of Monotai in hopes of finding their peoples connected to the ocean. The intertwining communities of yore are now gone after the devious storm got Nalo, sunk the isle of Motufetu, which connected them all, and let it sink to the bottom of the sea. Moana receives a warning that unless Motufetu is erased from the ocean bed, their communities will go extinct. So begins another adventure, but now she has a crew to help her. Of course, she'll also need to find Mui. The disjointed nature of the overall narrative is tough to ignore. Some scene seems cut together ill-fittingly, while other built to nothing. There's a curious lack of tension for the first two acts. Most notably is the scenes involving Metangi, the Akinta villain who completely disappears within a minute of her big number. It seems as though she has been set up to be an overreaching figure in the series, a tricky figure whose loyalties cannot immediately be understood, but in the context of a 100-minute film made out of a 3 or 4 episodes of an unaired show, she is both needless and distracting. Her song seems like it's meant to be akin to the Love and Open Door moment in Frozen, but it's all for naught. It's a shame since Fraser has the pipes and her character design is intriguing, just don't get too attached. Mana also has a crew this time around Mooney, a storyteller with a man crush on Mui who draws fan art of him, the chatterbox Luto who's dab hand at fixing things, and Kale, a gruesy old farmer who's apparently there to cultivate food for the crew but is never really seen doing so. There's not much to this team, which feels more put together by community than Moana's animal friends, who are still here, and yes, the chicken still gets most of the best love. Don't expect any conflict from this dynamic trio, minor things happen and they move on. Almost like they were designed to be episodic in nature or something. There's a shoehorned in message about working together, which is unoffensive enough but takes away from Mona's arc. Then again, said arc is mostly a retreat of what she went through in the first film. She is doubting her abilities to go to the distance, she is unsure of the way, and so on. Mui does not fare much better, and this I am the rock charm is far less interesting without the warmth of his relationship with Moana. They are apart for the first half. Also, there's more of those coconut creature in this because someone at Disney really wants to make those things into their version of the minions. One of the reasons Moana sorted and effortlessly was because of the songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Look, I know there's the weird backlash to the multi-award winning composer because he is a cheesy theater kid, but come on, apologies to the man. You want to know what you get when you have been forced to hire the cheapest we have got LMM at home version of songwriting. This movie, all the songs are dull, the lyrics are lazy, and they do almost nothing to advance plot and characters. Barlow and Beer, the pair behind the songs, are not ready for prime time. Sorry to fans of the unofficial Bractron musical. Credit to the animators who were overworked to make this happen because a lot of this film does look gorgeous. The final act, in particular, where the stakes are real and the action has some proper energy to it, it's the fine example of this. But mostly, it just does not seem as vibrant and dazzling as its predecessors. It feels, of course, like a smaller scale continuation of the same that was made for a different medium. Disney chose to get credit among fans and critics for taking their time with their animated films because they knew they were the jewel in their studio's heavy crown. Rush jobs will always look and feel like one, but should feel like an unreaching expansion of this world seems so satisfying. As of the time of writing this review and presenting, Moana 2 has already grossed over $386 million worldwide. That's well over double its reported budget of $150 million. It was always going to be a mega hit, and Disney will feel happy about their decision to hastily reimagine this series into a movie sequel. They see it as a brand expansion exercise that will keep 5 years old happy, and in fairness, the kids in my screening seems to have a very good time, but this cannot help but feel like a company learning all the wrong lessons. Disney had noted plans to double down on every more sequel including Toy Story 5 over developing more original work. Moana has a success because it felt like a fresh spin on their classic formula and a chance for worldwide audience to see something culturally specific that they otherwise might not have watched. If Moana were to get a real sequel, one with a story developed for cinema from the ground up, things would feel different. As it is, what we have is so derived and transparently corporate that it bumps me out. But hey, it did what Disney wanted it to do, so to them, it does not really matter. They want it to not matter, but frankly, I think kids deserve more than that. Moana is in theaters now. Moana 2 is the sequels of 2016's original Moana. Disney anticipated sequel is a real tearjerker, but I wish we had seen more from my favorite character. Moana 2 doesn't soar as high as its predecessor, but it's still a beautiful movie that celebrates Polynesian culture and the power of unexpected friendship. Moana 2 is not the failure we expected, and it was originally meant to be as a Disney Plus show and instead arrived as a feature film. I must admit it was lovely seeing it on the big screen, especially during a gloomy December evening in London, but I cannot help but imagine what a full series would have been looked like. Personally, I rather like the idea of an entire series dedicated to Hehe. Olaf Forsky asks a question which centers on the much loved Toy Ford character from Toy Story 4. A 8 episode series about a stupid chicken is right up my street. I did have high hopes going into this movie, and I am happy to say that most of my expectations were met. Such bright and beautiful visuals are always a welcome treat. For example, I am fascinated by how well they seem to animate water. With this in mind, I would encourage you to see this on a big screen or at least have a great at home setup for maximum immersion, as it's easy to find yourself swept away to the island of Montoy and what lies beyond. Moana 2 picks up 3 years after the first movie, where Moana is still fully connected to the ocean she adores so much. When receives an unexpected call from her ancestors, she assembles a crew as a wayfinder where she hopes to track down the hidden island of Motufetu, reconnecting the people of the oceans once again. As ever, she is enthusiastic about the mission, paralog as it may be, and would have been quite happy going off and doing it all by herself. She is encouraged to form a crew instead, and this merry band of misfits is thoroughly entertaining to watch. So much so, I think it will be worth rewatching when it arrives on Disney Plus. The four-person crew is made up for Moana, Mooney, who is a super fan of the demigod Mui, Luto, who is an engineer of sorts, and Kale, a farmer who is grumpy and not massively thrilled to be recreated. This mismatch of personalities is excellent fun, resulting in some expected chaos, especially when you throw in Hehe and Poa. They say to never work with animals for a reason, right? I really loved Mona's crew, and all the performances still on there stood out to me. The most was Mona's little sister Simia, who stole the show despite her limited screen time thanks to her feisty, lovable personalities. If Mana 3 does happen, I'd certainly like to see more of her. Along the way, they do dedicate Mui, of course, because Moana simply would not be complete without Dan Jensen's kooky, reckless demigod figure. When Mooney finally meets Mui, there are plenty of laughs out loud moments. While the plot of Moana 2 is centered around finding a new, long lost island, it's quite ironic that many of the beats feel similar to what we have seen before. This is a journey we have undertaken as viewers, but it didn't mind allowing along for a second time. Going on a voyage with Moana is always wonderful. I adore the songs, the atmosphere, everything about it. Even though we didn't quite reach the memorable heights of You Are Welcome, I have had some of the songs stuck in my head this week, especially What Could Be Better Than This. So it's not like any of the songs were complete dues. Well, predictable in places, there is plenty of action, especially when it comes to the third act, where I did actually start crying, the mark of any good Disney movie, in my opinion. If I am not sobbing into my popcorn, I do find myself kind of disappointed. There is also more than room for a failure of movie, and I sincerely hope it happen. Just give me more hey hey next time, please. I really do love him. Moana 2 movie review. The songs lack that Lin Manuel Miranda magic, but this more dutiful that inspired sequel turns into a catchy action fairy tale. At the end of Moana, which came out 8 years ago. Our plucky Polynesian heroine, who is not a princess, has defeated the giant lava monster Teka and returned the heart of Tifiti, the most green goddess of nature, an eager but untested island girl. Mona becomes a wayfinder, restoring her lush tropical home and discovering along the way that her people had always been voguers. She also bongered with the bickering but insecure refrigerator buddies hunk demigod Mui, helping to restore his power as well. At heart, Moana has a buddy movie. All in all, she accomplished quite a bit, which may leave you wondering what's left for Moana to do in the sequel. That's a silly question, of course, since the premise of the movie, like Moana 2, is the team of screenwriters are going to put their heads together and come up with a whole lot of seismic new saving the world hopes for Moana to jump through. The movie has barely even begun when it hits us with a cataclysm. Mona voiced once again with Pearly Prosody by Auliʻi Cravalho is journeying to seek out people from other islands, but she discovered that is not possible. The nasty god Nala has placed a curse on Motufetu, the island that once connected everyone. How does an island connect everyone? Oh, never mind. Moana must now journey to the distant seas of Oceania to remove that curse by fighting Nalo. I would not quite, but this is the category of same as different day. But the story is intended to strike very familiar beats. It's also what Stephen K. Bannon, for one, would call a parable of globalization. The definite that Moana has already gone up into a heroine who found her faith, believe in herself, and all that other good stuff. She does not have much inner journey left. So Moana 2, far more than the first film, becomes a non-interior animated action fairy tale. In Moana, I always felt like the sequence where Moana, Maui, and their animal sidekicks, the cuddly big boa, the demented roaster Hehe, fights off the Kikimora, those coconut parrots who look like souvenirs in a Tahiti novelty shop, slowed the movie down. In Moana 2, Moana travels on her handsome flat canoe with a crew of one-note human sidekicks, the Punky Brat Lotto, the Krampagan Farmer Kale, and the moony-eyed dude Mooney, who idolized Mui to the point of having a crush on him when she runs once more into the Kakemora. But the sequence that follows is actually the most arousing in the movie so far. They team up with the coconut barricade to defeat a column so massive that it's literally a mountain split in half. That's cool image to gawk at. And there are other ticklish creatures in Moana 2, like a towering sea monster or this movie equivalent of the lava demon, the god Nalo, a purple light force embedded in ocean tornado that emit such a potent charge they knock the tattoos right off Mui. Moana 2 has three directors: David G. Jr., Jason Hand, the Dana Ledex Miller, none of whom has made a feature before. They staged the film with a standard's impressive technical flair, a flow of moments that keeps your eyeballs dancing. That said, this is also a musical, one that Lin-Manuel Miranda, having launched a new branch of his career at a Disney, Tunesmith with Moana, elected not to come back for. I can understand why his Moana songs are memorable, especially when Far I'll Go and You Are Welcome, and he only upped his game with Encanto and even more intricately inspired entertainment. But Miranda, I am guessing, figured that he had already told the story of Moana through songs and didn't need to rehash it. The songs in Moana 2 by Abigail Barlow and Emily Beer are quirky and appealing with that electrified island trombones, but most of them songs, like the imitations Lin Manuel knockoffs, they are the early getting wistful about the ocean number. Beyond is fine in a generic way, but it's no how far I will go. What could be better than this? Features a fact Land Rap and Get Lost has a catchy hook, but none of the songs summon the adaptive quality that seal the story of Moana into our hearts. Movie still looks and talks like Jack Black on protein supplements, and Diane Jensen performance once again is sheer blinkered aggro charm. The character of Mustangi is introduced a sharp-tongued goddess or vampy Fraser voiced like the reincarnation of downtown Chili Brown, but she is given too little to do. There is also a lot of powerful slime. Moana 2 is an okay movie, an above average caddy roller coaster, and a piece of poor product in a way that the first Moana at its best transcended. The new movie wears you down to win you over. It's just a efficient enough delivery system for fellow our dreams inspiration to be a major holiday hit. When Mui is one of the funnier line says to Mona that she is not a princess. A lot of people think you are. That's the film is a good nature, me having its rebel heroine cake and eating it too. By this point, Mona seems ready to level up to Island Queen, and I have a feeling that she will get the chance. Can another tropical capitalism test of indie spirit, moxie, and panic is spasm of Mui troublemaking be far behind? Moana 2 is it slightly better than the original? The plot of the movie is that after receiving an unexpected call from her wayfinding ancestors, Moana must journey to the far seas of Oceania and into dangerous, long lost waters for an adventure unlike anything she has ever faced. Whenever a studio gets a hit film, you can almost guarantee that there will be a sequel eventually. And after Moana took the world by storm in 2016, it was clear that we had a new franchise on our hands. So Disney has gotten to work creating a Moana theme park at Disney World and even producing a live action version set to release in 2026. But it would be silly to ignore the actual source of all this success, so they have taken to making a direct sequel to their hit film, and it's pretty much exactly what you'd think it would be. It was not a massive fan of the first film, but I am pretty open minded when it comes to Disney animation. Give me a heartfelt story that tugs at my heartstrings, and I am all about it. Moana 2 follows the title character, voiced again by Auliʻi Cravalho, as she sets out to find other island of humanity. Her and Mui must raise an entire island in order to bring the people together. While Moana and Mui are clearly the stars of the show, this also works as a team up film, with her getting various characters to join her on her journey. They each are set up with good characterization and feel distance from one another. I had a blast with all of them, and they bring an energy that was mostly reliant on the rock the first go around. Often those films need a big villain for our heroes to go up against this, but this time around it mostly an omnipotent being. That means we are saved from any stereotypical monologues or story beats that we have seen time and time again. Instead, the villain is essentially a force of nature that our heroes must contend with. Given the elemental approach to the lore of this world, it feels very appropriate. This may be a weird thing to highlight given that this is a musical, but I was extremely impressed with how appropriately timed the music section felt. They did not undercut any dramatic moments and are there to bring that trademark Disney joy and happiness. Tha I certainly miss the crap. I really love the visuals and I just cannot get enough of the fantastical mysticism mixed with islander culture. The two blend together very well and make for some visually impressive moments. Animation is getting so good that if there was not already a curated look to the design, those people would enter Uncanny Valley. The hair looks like it could be in live action, it's so realistic. At a certain point, live action stuff is enough to feel moved with how close animation can get to the real thing. Lin Manuel Miranda did not return for the music this time around, but it still sounds very similar. That's the Pacific Island theme mixed with various contemporary stylings. The biggest difference is that it seems like they were not able to hire Dan Jensen's lack of singing talent. He is mostly just reciting the lines and it really stands out amongst the other powerhouse vocals. The only really gets the one song and that's probably for the best. I still really enjoy the Mui character and get that he is the main attractive for many. We are in a strange time because with the live action version on the horizon, we could very well by seeing the sequel take a similar route by the word of Mona is so much fun allowing for dramatic moments amongst the more light-hearted ones. Moana 2 is able to bring a similar flair to the original while actually improving upon it in many ways. This is clearly not the last we have seen for Moana and friends, and I'm sure that Disney will be making back along the way. Moana 2 is released in theater on November 27, 2024. Moana 2, the original Moana, holds a very special place in my heart. I was the first movie I was invited to screen on the Disney Story lot in Burbank, a pretty big deal for someone who got engaged as Disneyland honeymooned at Walt Disney World and has matching Disney tattoos with their spouse. And it was my son's favorite movie for the first few years of his life. It would be accurate to say I hope the sequel would offer a similar emotional connection for our family, but regrettably, Moana 2 feels more like a pale imitation of its predecessors rather than a necessary follow-up. Once again, Moana sets out on a journey across the ocean in hopes of lifting the curse of a vengeful god, but where sees the fate of her island and her people hung in the balance last time around. This time, the stakes are far less personal, which ultimately serves to make them less compelling. And while she was originally accompanied by the arrogant, shape shifting Mui, at this time she has a host of severely unwritten companies in tow, as well as returning sidekicks Pau and Hehe. As for Moise, he has been captured by a sorceress named Mustangi, a delightfully realized villain who all but disappears for the second half of the film once Moana is finally reunited with her demigod bestie. The music of Moana was one of its biggest strengths, but returning fans are likely to come away nonplussed with the sequel's auditory offering. Beyond is the centerpiece song showcasing the power of Cravalho's vocal while failing to evoke the soul-stirring quality of the previous films, How Far I Will Go. There's nothing here that proves as unexpectedly hilarious as an enormous Bedsel crab battling out the lyrics to the David Bowie inspired Shani, but Fraser's Soul's contribution, Get Lost, is serviceable catchy. Johnson fares the worst here with Can I Get a Chihu feeling less like the inspirational number it's clearly intended to be and more like the Jensen listening to the worst Disney songs of all time and then says, Hold my beer, Tremana Ticula. Monatu sails on the strength of its breathtaking animation and visuals, which continue Disney tradition of pushing the boundaries of what CG animation can achieve. The ocean sends shimmer with life, the lush island backdrops order on pastoralism, and the character animation is as expensive as ever. Yet, for all its beauty, the film cannot seems to crest the wave of its disjoint narrative and its lack of character development. It was reportedly conceived as a series of Disney Plus and was developed over the course of several years before being retold as a feature. A fact I did not learn until after my screening, but which might explain some of its more confounding elements. There's enough here to entertain young viewers, as I'm sure I'll discover this weekend when I take my son. But Moana 2 also feels adrift at sea with only fleeting glimpses of the magic that made the first film so beloved. Moana 2, almost as great as the original, except for one big thing. When Disney first announced Moana 2 in February 2024, I was apprehensive. Here was a surprise announcement. Mere month out from a November release that a Moana TV show had been reworked into a feature film. Did that mean Moana 2 was a rush job for Disney to recover from some of its 2023 box office disappointment like The Marvels and Wish? And if so, would that mean sacrificing quality for a swift turnaround? Thankfully, Moana 2 soothed my worries and then some thanks to its blended of epic adventure and its deeply filled story about family ties. Yes, there are elements that don't hit a hard, including a cookie cutter villain and some songs that just don't pass buster when compared to Moana's, but most of Moana 2 made up to and occasionally ever surpasses what come before, and that too is no small part to the growth of its incredible heroine. Moana 2 reminds you that Moana is a certified star. Even you, if you have not rewatched Moana since 2016, Moana 2 wastes no time is reminding you that Moana is a total badass. In the film's opening sequence, she runs through a dense rainforest, leaps across a revive, and climbs a steep rock face with her trusty big paw on her back. Second later, we get a classic hero shot Moana here streaming in the wind atop an island mountain, surveying the vast ocean around her. She takes a deep breath, blows a whelping call into her conch, and no one answers. Turns out, despite Moana's expert wayfinding skill, she has not been able to find any other humans who live in the ocean. Moana's island home of Montai is thriving, and Moana is nothing less than a living legend there. Young girls dress and do their hair like her, going as far as to find their own version of Poa. The film dubs them Monabis. Everyone calls her the future of Montoy, her father Tui, the Book of Boba Fett, Montoy chief, even wishes to bestow the title of Tontai upon her in honor for a skilled navigator and leader that has not been held for many, many years. But when Mona gets a desolate version of Montai future, should they not reconnect with other humans? She faces a difficult choice. She could strike out for a legendary island of Motufetu, which used to connect all the ocean pathways and people. Yet it farther than Moana or any of her ancestors have ever gotten, not to mention cursed by the human-hating god Nalo. If she goes, she risks not coming back to her family or her beloved island. Here's where Moana 2 really shows us how far Moana has grown with age and greater status in Montanoy. She has become far more aware of the stakes of her potential failure. Plus, she is terrified to lose her family, especially her sin-staring little sister Simia, with the weight of the world on her shoulders. Moana sets a courage for Mutafito along with an upgraded canoe and a new crew. Moana 2's new characters make an exciting adventure even better. Moana may be used to wayfinding by herself, but in Moana 2 she has got to share a canoe with three newbies. Keen-eyed inventor Lotto bring a daring atheism to the squad, even if her tendency to take part the canoe in her efforts to improve it is concerning. As the oldest members of the crew, you might expect Farmer Kale, our flag meets death, to bring elder wisdom to the journey, but he is more the cathartic complainer type. Rounding things out in Montai legend expert Mooney, who doubles as the canoe's resident Mui fanboy. Jesse paints a fanfic of him and Mui's being best friends. So imagine Mooney's sadness when he realizes Mui is not along for the ride. While Moana could desperately use his help, Moise actually is a pickle of his own. He is trapped by Nalo's accomplice, the Goddess Mustangi, whom I can only describe as a bat diva, constantly surrounded by a cloud of the white creature and even spotting bat fangs herself. Mustangi exudes vampiric aura. She almost gives Moana's shiny crab Tamatoa a run for his money. But Mustangi is not the only few Moana and Co. will have to conquer. The coconut parrots known as the Kakamora are back to wreak havoc, while a giant island-sized calm risks swallowing our hero's whole with so many colorful creatures to face. It's a shame that Moana 2's Big Bad Nalo is basically a nonentity, reducing the otherwise very cool final set piece to a faceless confrontation with Insulmate Weather. Contrast Moana 2's magical water spot with Moana's expressive lava monster Teka to get a sense of how detached the sequel is from its villain. Expect for a mid-credit scene that somehow implies that Moana Thanos. Luckily, Moana 2 finds plenty of connection elsewhere from Moana's friendship with Maui and her crewmates to her continued relationship with her ancestors. Grandma Tala is back to pass along with wisdom and give us a good hard cry along the way. Elsewhere, Moana's steadfast belief in bringing the people of the ocean back together makes for a necessary counterpoint to Nala's hope to sow discord and isolation. At least what later we learned of Itra exposition, Moana's optimism and determination proves there's a power in connection which we get to see firsthand as her crew begins to get a sea. Moana 2 songs are fine, but there's no match for Moana's. With its beautiful texture animation and its propulsive adventure to the far end of the ocean, Moana 2 is another win for Disney animation. The only major letdown, the film songs, which are totally okay but contain nothing special compared to Moana's greatest hit. Moana composers and songwriter Mark Monica and Optai returned for Moana 2, but when key member of the first film's team is missing, songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda taking his place are Abigail Barlow and Emily Pierre, the Grammy-winning team behind the unofficial Bractron musical. Even so, Miranda's presence is greatly missed, with songs often feeling like luster rushes of the first film songs. Take Bang essentially a toned down evolution of how far I will go, where Moana readies herself to go back out into the ocean. Cravalho's delivery is gorgeous and I could listen to her song for hours, but I remember a single line of that song beyond I'll go beyond. Then there's a Mui Can I Get a Chihu, a Peter song that will make you miss the fast packed wordplay of You Are Welcome. A flaming canzono does lend it some extra fares. The better extends to a travel song that could be better than this, while I adore Metaphor lightning fast delivery of letter sans timed rap. It all feels like imitation Miranda, awkward rhythm moments, and some obvious rhythm further highlight how much of an asset he was on Moana. Even the funky Get Lost, my beloved but Deva Mustangi big number is a letdown based on her character introduction. You might expect something in the vein of the Dark Bond theme, instead you get a pop tone that, despite fresher serious pipes, feels fairly genetic. The slowed down piano beginning also cannot help but remind me of The Princess and the Frogs Almost Theirs, although I am sure other similarities abound. All I am saying is if the previous film's villain's song featured a giant coconut crab doing a David Bruni tribute, you have got to aim higher. At least Moana 2's less than inspired songs get a boost from their accompanying animated sequence. Can I Get a Chi who drops us into a god tier obstacle course while Get Lost features some pretty rad but choreography. What could be better than this? Also, scores loves from Kale's announced at Moana, Mooney and Lado's increasingly exciting taunts which low-key read like They are trying to get to him to join their ocean loving cult. That's the magic of Moana 2. Even when the songs are not hitting, something else will elevate them, turning a decent number into a great experience. Moana 2 is the sequel of the 2016 movie The Moana. What can we say? Expect no thank you. Alright, kid, puts down your TikToks and your Roblox and your Siggy toilets. It's time for a history lesson because Moana 2 is not just a movie. It's a throwback to a long lost historical era when sequels usually sucked. Why we had want to throw back to that, I have no idea, but I guess everything old is new again, and Disney is, if nothing else, a nostalgia factory. There was a time when seeing sequel stuck was not just pessimistic, it was stating a testicle average. There were always noteworthy expectations, but for most of the 20th century, fail ups to great and popular movies were usually less great and less popular. Often they were just shameless excuses to crank a few extra dollars out of the audience so they fell into obscurity quickly. Three Men and a Little Lady did not do justice to Three Men and a Baby. The Legend of Zorro is not mentioned with the some reverent tones as the Mask of Zorro if it's over mentioned at all. And here remember Splash 2, there was a Splash 2. There were always expectations, but in the last couple decades, attitude towards sequels have changed. And films that might previously have been lazy cash and now have bigger ambition. They cast more lost less, they expand on stories and characters instead of merely rehashing them. Recently we have been treated to great sequels like Insider 2, Smile 2, Dune Part 2 and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Sequels are not just big business. These days they are frankly as good as and sometimes even better than the original. The discussion of great sequel brings us back to Moana 2, a film which does not qualify. The follow-up to one of Disney's modern classic returned to ancient Polynesia a few years after our young hero Moana and the boastful demigod Maui gave back a god's missing heart, saving Moana's people and redeeming Maui for his worst mistake. Mana proved that her people's nationalism was misguided and Mui became a better person. They earned the audience emotional investment and went through some danged good character development while singing super catchy songs. Moana 2 goes in another direction, giving emotional investment, character development, and catchy songs a miss in favor of stuff. The characters have nowhere left to grow, so they just do stuff. Moana's people are super happy. She is searching the seas for different civilization and she is pretty happy. Mui spends the first chunk of the film's kidnapped and getting punked on, so he's not happy, but it's not because he has to mature as an individual, it's because he is kidnapped and getting punked on. When Mona receives a vision telling her to follow a shooting star to a long lost island which used to connect the many people and culture of Polynesia, she does that thing, she is good at it the whole time. Muiz comes along and he also helps. Eventually, the plot is resolved and everyone's happy about it. We. It's tempting to say that the story of Moana 2 is perfectionary, that it plays like a straight to video release, but even Disney's old cast offs had more oomph than this. The Lion King 2 had serious interpersonal conflict. Heck, even The Little Mermaid Ariel's beginning had some cognate social theme and halfway decent melodrama, and that was the cause to The Lion King 2 had serious interpersonal conflict. Hatch, even the Little Mermaid at its beginning had some content, social theme, and halfway decent melodrama, and that was just because it knocked off Footloose. It's more accurate to describe Moana 2 like an episode of a mediocre Moana television series, which is what the sequel was originally supposed to be, where the characters remain relatively static and merely respond to whatever crisis emerge each week. All that matters is that they get out of that house, not what they actually do. But since it's in theater, all that matter is if Disney gets the audience out of the house, and they probably will because on the surface, Moana 2 ticks off a lot of boxes. It's bright and colorful, even if the characters look more plastically and doll-like than usual. It's got a bunch of peppy songs, even though one of them are memorable. Whatsoever, Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote the musical numbers in the original Moana, and his style was so distant that all the sequel songwriter can quite recapture his vibe, let alone his catchiness and lyricness ingenuity. There's nothing particularly terrible about Moana 2, but the fact that it's necessary to write there's nothing particularly terrible about Moana 2 means something still went wrong. The film throws its new sporting character to jazz things up, played by Rose Matayo, David Finn, and Hololai Chang, and they are reasonably fun and funny, but they don't make the film's journey any more meaningful. They are archetypes, not rich character. One of them does not even help with the plot. He is just there to be grumpy Gus and justify one of the film's too many songs about cheering each other up. They add a little novelty into the mix, but not much more. One gets the sense that Moana 2 is mostly a setup for future films in the series. It's an intellectual property, expositional starter kit, a humdrum act of corporate mundane instead of a story that needed to be told. Even the suggestions of what could come in Moana 3 feels arbitrarily like they pulled a sequel tease out of a hateful of tattered old sequel teases. It's a film that's holding back. Maybe a future installments can build on what Moana 2 set up, but this setup makes future installment a lot less appealing. It's a generic, forgettable sequel wearing expensive blockbuster fairy peri. What can be possible? Say expect no thank you. Moana 2 opens exclusively in theater on November 27. Will Moana 2 make $1 billion at the box office? Breaking down its current total and future performance. Moana 2 has already been incredibly successful at the box office so far, and its momentum doesn't seem like it will run out anytime soon. The story of Moana 2 is set 3 years after the first film, which was released in 2016 and follows Moana as she once again teams up with the demigod Maui and assembles a crew to find the lost island of Motufetu and break its curse. The cast of Moana 2 includes Auliʻi Cravalho, Dan Jensen, Tamara Morrison, Nicole, Scherzinger, and Alan Tudyk. Moana 2 was actually originally planned to be a Disney Plus series, but it was ultimately decided that it should be a theatrical release. This ended up being a very smart decision since Moana 2 has been earning a lot of money at the box office. Reviews for Moana 2 have not been nearly as strong as the first movie, but that has not stopped moviegoers from flocking to the theater to see Moana's most recent adventure. Moana 2 current box office total. As of this, Moana 2 has grossed a total of 439, 713 and 250 at the worldwide box office. This is incredibly impressive since the movie has only been out for 1 week. In its first day opening period, Moana 2 grossed $221 million domestically and $165 million internationally, totaling for a worldwide gross of $386 million. Releasing just before the Thanksgiving long weekend was an effective strategy for the sequel as Moana 2 broke several records with its opening weekend earnings. Moana 2 $221 million domestic haul is the biggest 5-day Thanksgiving earner for all time. This record was previously held by Frozen 2 which earned $125 million across its first 5 days. Moana 2 easily beat out Frozen 2 for this record which showcases just how well the sequel is currently performing at the box office. Moana 2 also beat out the Frozen sequel as the movie with the biggest Black Friday gross of all time, the biggest Thanksgiving Day gross of all time, and the biggest opening day gross ever for a Disney animated movie. Furthermore, Moana 2 also beat out the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which was just released last year, as the biggest global opening ever for an animated movie. In its opening weekend in April 2023, at a time when Disney animated movies are struggling at the box office, the Super Mario Bros. Movie made 377 million at the worldwide box office. Therefore, Moana 2 beat the Super Mario Bros. Movie by earning $9 million more. Moana 2 is expected to have strong legs at the box office. In addition to all the previous records, Moana 2 was also a major contributor to the most profitable 5-day Thanksgiving weekend at the box office in history. Moana 2, along with other major films such as Wicked and Gladiator 2, earned a combined total of $414 million across the 5-day Thanksgiving period. Moana 2's opening 5-day haul accounted for more than half of the record breaking Thanksgiving box office, and reports suggest it will also give a successful second weekend at the box office. Moana 2 is projected to make $60 million in its second weekend, which is an extremely impressive figure for the weekend right after Thanksgiving. While the first weekend of December, right after the Thanksgiving weekend, doesn't tend to be a very strong weekend for the box office. Moana 2 looks set to change that, as reported by Deadline. Moana 2 is projected to make $60 million in its second weekend, which is an extremely impressive figure for the weekend right after Thanksgiving. This projection proves that Moana 2 box office success is not going to stop right after its opening weekend. Moana 2 should make over $1 billion, but by how much? The amount of money that Moana 2 has already made at the box office is shocking, since the first film grossed a worldwide total of $643 million, while a movie earning over $600 million is impressive. The first Moana movie is not even close to being near the top of the list of the most profitable animated movies. The aforementioned Frozen 2, for example, made 145.3 at the worldwide box office. 2016's Moana was nowhere close to earning $1 billion at the box office, but Moana 2 will likely soar past this major box office milestone. Moana 2 has already grossed well over $400 million at the worldwide box office and will surpass the total box office of the first film in no time. Given all the box office record that the movie has achieved, it is clear that Moana 2 will easily make over $1 billion. However, it is currently unclear how much over the $1 billion mark Moana 2 will earn. Predicting Moana 2's final box office total. The best film to look at when trying to predict Moana 2 box office total is without a doubt Frozen 2. Beyond the fact that Moana 2 surpasses Frozen 2 to earn many of its records, Frozen 2 is also a sequel that earned worse reviews than its predecessors upon release. The first Frozen movie has a Rotten Tomato score of 89, while Frozen 2 dropped to 77 to compare. Moana has an impressive score of 95%, whereas Moana 2 currently has an overwhelming score of 63% via Rotten Tomatoes. Even though Moana 2's score is significantly lower than the first film's score, Frozen 2 worst reviews didn't stop it from surpassing the first Frozen movie at the box office. This is proof that Moana 2 will likely soar well beyond the $1 billion mark at the box office. Moana is not as popular of an IP as Frozen, however, so it is unlikely it will make more than Frozen 2 did even though it has already surpassed the film in other records. Most likely, Moana 2 will earn around 1.2 to 1.3 billion at the worldwide box office. This number would still be very impressive since it would mean that Moana 2 doubled the box office total of first film. Moana 2 is the movie this 97% animated movie nominated for 2 Oscar is a great watch after Moana 2. Moana 2 is the direct sequel to Disney's beloved modern animated film about a young woman who ventured deep into the seas of Oceania and already proving to be one of 2024's biggest hits. Moana 2 opened to an excellent box office performance and it is being praised by critics and audience as a suitable continuation of this popular family-friendly story. Developing the universe mythos with new character, new music, and some familiar returning faces, the film's success is welcome, reminding that there's always a place for fun, creative sequel in today's filmmaking landscape. But Moana 2's success is also an excellent excuse to return to some films from previous years that have adopted shared theme and navigated theme with similar characters. Cowboy and the Two Sting is a perfect example of this. The stop motion project has lost in common with both Moana movies. And while it was overshadowed by the louder, more popular Disney release, the film deserves much credit of its buskers of creativity and rich storytelling. It's one of the best animated movies of the 2010 and Moana 2 success marked the perfect time to rewatch it. Cabo and the Two Stings has a similar theme to the Moana movies. There are countless similarities between Cowboy and the Two Stings and both Moana's movies, not just in their target audience and animated medium, but also in the themes that are explored in both narratives. They are each a tale of exploration and magic, following two young protagonists who discover their place in the world by coming face to face with creatures and mythologies much larger than themselves. Despite their epic skills and powerful characters, both films has extremely relatable and intimate stories about family and coming of age. They are down to earth and grounded in a way that many films about magic and mythology cannot quite manage, which was a key factor in their relative success. This is a key Kobo and the Two Strings is still hailed with a 97% fresh success on Rotten Tomatoes and why Moana 2 has broken so many commercial records already. Both films are so easy for younger audience to attach themselves to and feel seen by with resonant struggles. Cabo and the Two Strings has a rich cultural commentary like Moana. Kobo and Moana have a source material similarity that bands them together as they both explore cultural lands that are important to Pacific locations. The former offers a fresh, innovative look at the enhanced mythologies of ancient Japan, while the latter is an energetic and creative spin on classic Polynesian legends that are still alive today. These huge blockbuster series gives a voice to these myths and legends that were not previously well known in the West, which is so important that they have been widely accepted across the world. Does Moana 2 have a post-credit scene? The sequel's ending explain. One of the most anticipated Disney movies of the year has arrived with Moana 2. The first movie focused on Auliʻi Cravalho's Moana, the wayfinder in training from Montai Island. She returned the heart to Tifiti in the first film and preserved the power of creation. Now Moana is given a new mission. She has to team up with friends Moni, Lutu, and Kale. Their job is to venture out and free a cursed island, Motufetu, so that all aquatic tribe can be united again. It leads to a stunning ending that changed Moana's destiny forever. Moana 2's ending. In the sequel, Moana reunites herself with the demigod Maui the Rock. Moana's team rescues the shapeshifter and learns that they really need to do to free the island from the vicious lightning god Nalo. Luckily, they get help from people they thought would be enemies, the Kikimora parrots and Mitangi Nalo's supernatural slave. Mitangi points them in the direction of the island. Once a human touches the island, it will be liberated. The journey is perilous, however, Nalo has sea monster and other creature come after them, building to the funnel where Moana's allies struggle in the storm that blocks their passage. Nalo Ross is filled as the magical lightning depowers Mui and shocks Moana underwater. Moana does touch the island as it sinks, however, which freezes. Unfortunately, Nalo's lightning strikes and kills Moana's Mui and the team grabs for her. However, Moana's ancestors all are summoned. The family-friendly movie dives deeper into Polynesian culture and heritage, with Mui singing a song that ancestors join in another step forward in the term of authentic diverse representation. Mona is revived by her ancestors' power and gets magical tattoos and a mystical aura. Now she is a wayfinder and a demigod just like and repowered Moi. Tribes begin to arrive at Motufetu, confirming the sea is connecting them all again. Meanwhile, Mona's family accepts that she is now an avatar for the deities and her ancestors. She will now keep venturing out into the unknown world to spread their tradition, find other kindred spirits, and expand their community. Moana 2 does have a mid credit scene. The story for Moana 2 doesn't just end at the start of the credit, there is a mid credit scene that shows Nalo torturing Mustangi for aiding Moana. Mustangi should be freed as well, but Nalo has subjugated her. He intends to keep her as a prisoner, oppress her, and use her power to attain revenge. They are also joined by the villainous giant crab from the first movie. Jiminy Climax Tomato is a crustacean kaiju who is known for collecting relics. They had to steal Mui's hook in the first movie, which left Tamato's battered and bruised. He wants to forge a partnership with Nalo and get vengeance of his own. It has that superhero feel of when Marvel Studios assemble Avengers villain or when DC does the same for the Justice League. How Moana 2 set up a sequel. Firstly, the villains teaming up is the most obvious angle for third Moana movie. Seeing as Nalo has godlike powers, his coalition could recruit other dark, ethereal entities to the cause. Tamatoa could even bring other relics to the fore. They had want to seek out an army to use. This place Moana's home, the other tribes, and Motufetu is grave danger. It's a chance to bring new weapons into play, seeing as evil spirits also factor into this franchise. Nalo can recruit dead ancestors who were enemies to Moana's people as well. Secondly, Moana and Co will have to steal up Mui's localize. He will train Moana's little sister Simia to be a wayfinder. They could build their own legends of the upcoming battle. Luto, for example, is brilliant with invention, so Moana will have to find a way to turn farmers and sailors into warriors. Mui is rough around the edges, so it will be interesting to see if this arrogant entity has the patience to train the citizen. To complicate things, Mui and Moana may need to bring other tribe in, which could create conflicts and differences in philosophies. Protecting home will be an important theme, but island will surely come under attack, so this presents an opportunity to have everyone maturing more. Mona and Mui could seek out more relics to enhance their army for the upcoming war. Matangi and Mui seems to have a romantic history, so that more potential for Matangi to complete their redemption. Additionally, there are cute characters from Hehe and Poa to the new faces in the Moana's Bay, who fans will love to see defending their territory. All fun and games might have to be put aside for a more aggressive slant, however, which could show different dimensions and dynamics to these individuals. Thirdly, Mana will have to deal with her own fate and how she transcended. She loves her family, but if she is no longer a mortal, she has to wrestle with overliving them. Maui lived for over 3,000 years and grew descendant with humanity. Mona would not like the idea of saying goodbye to so many loved ones. It is an arc found in Spider-Man stories. With great power comes with great responsibility. Mona is a young lady, so she might not want this burden. Moana might even become corrupted a bit by the power. In the end, Moana could give it back because the sustenance does come from being normal.